Welcome everybody, my name's Scott Hubbard from Sparx Systems, and today we're looking at our expert use case modeling video, where we're going to look at use case modeling on our urban parking system repository. Now, if this is the first video you've seen in this series, you can look at the Sparx Systems YouTube channel to see an introductory, an intermediate and advanced video where we build up our use case model and look at a number of different features. So there's lots that we're building upon. I'm joined today by Stephen Maguire, who's going to take us through our expert use case modeling. So welcome, Stephen. And what are we going to look at today?
Thanks for the introduction, Scott. Always a pleasure to be here. Let's dive into this topic. As always, I like to set my perspective before starting. And you can see up in the top right-hand corner of the application, we have got a drop down here which lists the perspective sets and then the perspectives. I've been doing some mind map diagram earlier today, so I need to set my perspective onto UML behavioral, which is where the use case model is located. I'll do that. We talked about this before. It brings up a number of patterns here, and we can inject those into our model by hitting the create model button. I like to do things from first principles, so let's close the builder page and let's get started. Conveniently, we have this navigation diagram, which is like an entry point, a launching pad for our diagrams. We have behavioral models here. I'm going to click on this one, and we have a number of different cells here representing the different behavioral models. As Scott said, we're concentrating on use case modeling and the expert features of the tool and the value that you can get from these as a use case modeler. So let's click on this one, and we come through to our use case diagram. Let's have a very quick look at this just to put ourselves into perspective. We've built this up over both the introductory, the intermediate and the advanced videos. So you can see it's already got quite a lot of elements on it. In the middle, there's a boundary element, and we've colored that green to distinguish it from the rest of the diagram. We've got actors outside the use cases, both human and system actors on the right-hand side over here. And we've got a number of use cases inside. We've used the generalization relationship to specialize some of the actors and use cases. I'll just focus in on those ones there. And you can see that we've got a premium motorist, and we've got a number of use cases that have specialized as well. So one of the things we wanted to look at now was we looked at an include relationship, which allowed us to include text, repeated text, I guess, that's occurring in a number of the use cases. We're now going to look at an advanced feature, or call an expert feature, that allows us to extend a use case. So one of the things here, we're going to look at check remaining time, and we're going to say that, look, someone may want to do something extra in that use case. So the extend one is something which happens in addition to the base use case. So the base use case is the one that we're going to extend. We simply click on that one use case there, use our right mouse click, our context menu here, and we can go into advanced there and say edit extension points. So we can have one or more extension points, and we're going to add an extension point, and this one is we're going to be putting in, we'll say, before expiry. So someone needs to extend their parking time before the first session has expired. So we'll just do that, and we'll go OK there. And you can see what that's done is it's changed the shape of the use case a little bit. I'll just make that conveniently, just stretch that out, make that a little bit bigger, and line that one up. Now we need to put in another use case, because we need to extend our parking session. And so we're going to put in another use case, and we'll call it simply extend parking session. So we can do that from the toolbox. You notice I haven't got my toolbox displayed. I conveniently using this chevron up in the top corner of the diagram here, and I can put that back again, and I can tuck it away again using the chevron. So just in passing, that's a very useful feature with a large diagram. I'm going to select the use case from the toolbox, drag it onto the diagram, and put it there, and I'll put in some text, extend parking session. So let's do that. We'll just move one of these guys over out of the way a little bit, and we'll tidy up that diagram in just a minute. I always like to put in notes as I'm working with the with the elements. So I've put that one in. Let's put in some notes on that element. Allows the motorist to prolong their current parking reservation beyond the initial book time period. Functionality enables motorists to add more time to their parking session. So that's good. We want to give it the same style. Let's use our layout ribbon on the style panel, the paint selector, and we've selected that. Now let's go into our extend use case and paint that. Now, what we want to do is to put a relationship in. I might just turn this, hide this include relationship from the diagram just for a minute. So I'm going to hide that connector, not delete it. And let's have a look here. We can put in, using our quick linker, an extend relationship. So you can see here we've got extend, and you can see something that is important is that's going in the opposite direction to the include relationship. So the include relationship goes from the base use case to the included use case. The extension one goes from the extended use case back to the base use case. So having done that, we need to say how this is being extended, where this fits in. So even though we've got it linked to that check remaining time, remember that I said that you can put in multiple extension points. So we could have a number of different extension points for that check remaining time. So what we need to do is to tell this extension relationship which one of those extension points we're referring to. And we can do that by going to the advanced one there, going extension points, set extension point there, and go before expiring.
Right. And so if you had 5 or 6 listed there, you could choose from all of them and choose an appropriate extension point.
You choose the extension point that you want there. So let's that for tick. I'm just going to reload that diagram, and again I'll just tidy up this line. Notice how EA kind of conveniently moves these lines around and snaps them in to location. So that's the extension use case. What I can do now is I can go to my responsibilities window and say, look, I want to add add a scenario for this particular one, or I can go directly to the scenarios window from the design ribbon and the element panel and the scenarios tab there, and I can put in some details about how that would work. I'm not going to go into that. We've covered that in a previous video. I'm going to say something like the motorist selects the extend time option, and I'll leave that up to our listeners to complete those things. You've seen that in the previous video, as I've said, and you can use that extension point there with the extension use case. So another place that we might have this is in when we're booking the parking session. So it doesn't have to just happen in one place. We can put that in a number of different places. So one thing we might have is in our parking session that you might have some discount. I recently went to a movie house, watched a movie, but when I booked in for the movie, they gave me a voucher to apply a discount to my parking. So in some cases, you get the parking for free. So again, we can put in another use case here. Let's put in a use case here called buy discount. And again, we'll put in some notes for that one. Optional enhancement of the payment process reduces the parking fee. Again, we do our
design layout
ribbon, and we choose that from the style panel, and then we select this one here and we go paste onto that, and again we can just put our extension relationship, always pointing back to the base use case. So again, we can just tidy up this diagram later. I'm not particularly interested in doing that at the moment. You notice that what's popped up here in the meantime, it's just taking a little bit of time to refresh, is this extension point here. So again, I can shape this element a little bit, and that's the definition of the extension point. You can see. So without that there, you wouldn't know which particular extension point this one is referring to. So it's important to make it clear to people. I like to use a bit of style there, Scott. I'm just going to color that differently so it's quite obvious what's going on. I'm not going to put an extension point in this one. I'll leave that up to the users to do that. So another thing we're going to look at is a couple of other things that are going on with our parking meter system. One of the things that you need to look at here is that when we look at our responsibilities window, you can see that there are a number of different panels across here in the responsibility window, which we skipped over in the earlier videos, and I want to focus on those now. So it's a very useful window, and one that I don't see many of my when I go into customer sites, people using, but it's one of my favorite windows when you're doing this kind of modeling, because it kind of contains all the things you need to know. So what are the requirements? So there's a requirement there, and you can see that the display panel's there, the vehicle registration number displays there, the difficulty, the priority, and I'll move that over a little bit. I'll tuck my toolbox away, move this one over so you can see that in a bit more detail. It's an external requirement. It's got a priority. We've got, we can put type and stability in there, and we could find in all diagrams if we want to, and we could go and look at that. And there it is there in a Kanban diagram. So you can see that that's there. It was in a number of different diagrams as well. But let's come back with this one selected. We've got our requirements. Now we've got constraints, scenarios, and files. We have looked at scenarios in previous video. This is displaying both our basic path and our alternate paths, the invalid registration plate, the motor's cancelled before payment. But we've also got files, and so here I can add a new file. I might have something external. It might be something in an actual file system in a
So you might have a link to the pricing on the council website or something like that.
Exactly that. It can be an actual file on a file system, or it can be a URL. You can say it's either a path or a URL. So that's a really good example. Some other information that someone needs to access. I won't bother doing that here. The other one, though, I want to look at is constraints. Now, I think this is a really important one because it allows us to create constraints that determine things like preconditions that need to be in place before something can happen, post-conditions that will be in place after the use case is run, and also invariants that will stay true all the way through the use case. Let's put a constraint in there now, and let's look at this one. Here this is popped up on the screen here. I'm just going to push that onto the other screen. So let's put in a constraint, and we'll go to our scenarios window actually and do it from there. So you can see I can do it in a couple of different places. I can do it in the constraints window there, or the scenario window here, and I'll put it in there, and I'll say add new there. Window pops up. I can put that in. I'm not going to put any notes in at the moment, but you might want to put some more detailed notes in there. But what I've got over here is, which is important, is the properties, and I'm going to say that it's the motor has parked a vehicle in a metered parking space. So I'm going to put that as a precondition. You notice there are a number of different options there, but this is a precondition, and I'll say save to that, and I'll say the status is approved there. I'll go OK, and you can see that pops up there. And again, we've got this very convenient feature of looking at what these things mean. So we can look at that. That pops us to the glossary. What does a parking zone mean? A parking zone represents a designated area. So always, Scott, what we're trying to do is get this articulated model where everything's connected to other things. We haven't got like a what I call a bag of bones which are not connected. We want an articulated skeleton, something which is showing us that the knee bone is connected to the thigh bone. All of those kind of things. That's obviously a metaphor.
And that's why it's always worthwhile adding notes and updating the glossary and keeping things up to date, because it pays off in the long run. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, let's put another one in now. Let's put a post condition in. So we'll add another constraint here. We just simply click on our new button there. This pops up again, and we'll say that this one's a post condition. We'll say that this one is pending or proposed. We'll save that. Now we can just keep adding them here, Scott, which is kind of possibly a useful thing to do. I'm going to say this one here, parking session is active for a vehicle, and this is going to be a post condition again. So I'll go new here, put another constraint in, and this one's going to be a post condition, and I might just add another one which will be an invariant. So payment before activation. So let's put this in, and let's do something a little bit different here. We'll put this one in as a constraint. Let's say it's an invariant, and then let's put in some notes here that describe it. So I don't want to spend our time going through all those notes, but here's an example of what you kind of thing you can put in. A parking session must not be activated until payment has been successfully processed and confirmed by the payment gateway. Rationale: this prevents unauthorized parking and ensures revenue collection. The system must never create an active parking session without receiving payment authorization first. So, they're looking after their commercials there. And let's save that. And we've got those put in there. Let's have a look at another one, and another type of one here. I think I've got, so let's put in another invariant, which is, again, this is an expert topic, Scott. So let's up the ante a little bit on what we're going to do here. Unique vehicle registration per session. So you can't have multiple registrations there. That's going to be an invariant. And let's do something which, if you are an expert user, you might be familiar with, but let's talk about it. I'm just going to put this in. What I've got in here now is some OCL, some object constraint language. So context is the parking session. The invariant is, unique active vehicle registration. And we're not going to go into the details about the object constraint language. You can look at that in a future video. But what I've also done here is put in an explanation so people can understand, who aren't familiar with the object constraint language, can understand what the syntax is about. So parking session dot all instances gets all parking session objects in the system, selects its status. Firstly, only or filters only active sessions, not expired or cancelled ones. That's important. So I don't want to dwell on this, but that's an example of putting the object constraint language in, which tightens up the model in a very, very specific and robust way. So let's go OK to that, and you'll see all of those have been entered there. Now, I encourage you to do this when you're doing modeling. I like to do it from the start, but we wanted to show this as an expert topic, so I've left it to the end. But I would, as I'm doing my modeling, I typically put in the preconditions, postconditions, and invariants as I'm starting with my use case. Now, remember, this is applying to the particular use case that I'm on, right? So if I go into a different one, we don't have the constraints displayed. So always make sure that you're on the right use case. Now, the other thing I wanted to show as well was the fact that I can actually import things from a text file. So let's have a look at get parking information. I think we're going to look at, just make sure I'm on the right thing there. Yes, I am. So I'm going to select get parking information there, and we can just go to the scenarios there and type in the steps. But what I'm going to show you is I've got a text file. So what I can do here, Scott, is I can import things from a text file or from the clipboard. And if you look here, I can, instead of typing in the steps myself, I can go create text from clipboard and new line delimited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that I've got that. So I've got no magic happening. These are the steps that I had for get parking information. Now, this is quite typical. You might be in an organization where some people have actually created text documents. Enterprise Architect is a much more sophisticated way of modeling, and you can generate this text out if you want to into a use case document. But I'm just going to select that text there into my clipboard, and I'll move that off the screen now and just click in here and say, create from clipboard, new line delimited. That's what it was, and you can see that those steps have gone in there. So that's a very useful thing for you to do if you've got the text out somewhere else. And you can see that these things have popped up again. We've got our links, even though that was in remote text. EA has found the fact that we've got this location, and I can click on that and go to the glossary. But remember, when I roll over it, I can see the text that it's coming from data modeling, some sort of data modeling package as well. So
now with step 2, it says the motorist. Can you change that icon from a system to a user?
Yeah, I sure can, Scott. I can just go set as a step as user, and that's changed that for us. So I think I didn't have the step selected when I imported it, so it's left that line at the top there. But let's continue on and go back and look at our one-time booking one here. Now, there's a couple of other things I just want to briefly mention, Scott, is we've got these other positions here where we've got some text that we can enter. So what we can do here is enter text from our context references here. You can see that there are our context references, the things that are in context or related to this particular use case. And remember from the previous video, we had our entry points as well, which are looking at where our alternate scenarios kicked in. And of course, we've got our constraints. So looking at this one here, I can go up to this and make sure that I've got this active. So if I look at this here, enable users context list. So that's an important step to put in. And I can go in here now, and so I want to link to an existing element. So link to a requirement, insert from context reference. Let's do that. And let's look for requirements up here. And we're going to say functional requirements. And let's say that we want to look at availability as a requirement there. So we'll put that in there. And you can see now that that's linked to that requirement. And I can, get to that requirement again just by using my control click. And that will launch that requirement. But also it's put it in here into the context references. And I can see down here other information. I can put a comment in here as well. So I could put in just the requirement information. So if I was to go to that, I could just get that text, or I could put in, I'm free to put in an additional information. So, I can say add context reference, add comment, and I can put that comment in. You may put something different into what the actual requirement's saying that's specific to the context of this particular use case. So what I can do with results as well is the motorist enters their vehicle entity. I can simply put in some text and say, registration entered. Yeah. So, and under things, under here, so the motorist presses require button, payment there, I can put under the state there, payment made.
Yeah.
So, gives you a lot of, I'm not going to fill that out in detail, leave that up to the user to finish that off. But you can see now how that is a very useful thing. You've got this information about the state, the result, and these users. Scott, one thing that we talked about before was we generated out a model here, this activity model, and let's have a look at that. So we did that in a previous video. A diagram of this type already exists. Do you want to override the existing thing, synchronize elements in the existing diagram? Let's go synchronize, preserve diagram layout. Yeah, let's do that as well. Just in case I've changed my diagram and I want to do that.
They should made it look neater, and you want to keep that.
Keep that look as well, or I change colors on it, all sorts of different things there. So here we can look at, you see, we have this include to the payment process payment. We talked about this in the advanced video. What I can do is I'm going to use my toolbox, bring my toolbox back, and this is an expert video. So let's have a look at some of the things we can do. We can put a hyperlink in here and put that in, and we can say process payment, and we can click on that and bring this up and say we want to go to a particular diagram, and the diagram we want to go to is the process payment diagram. Now I haven't produced that at the moment, so I won't select that. But if we'd done a process payment one, we would be able to select that diagram in here under our use case model. So we've got our behavioral models there, and we've got our use case ones, and we could click through to a particular diagram there. So won't bother showing that, but that's how that would work. I'll just go and see if we've got our process payment. I don't think we've got that in place. So scenarios on that. Actually, I do have those scenarios. Let me just generate that one out for you just to show you that. Just a diagram. Let's do that. Okay, so there's that payment one. Let's go back. We're jumping around a little bit, but they're the steps for our process payment use case. Let's go back to our this one here and go to our scenarios, and we want to look at that generated graph. That's the one for this one, and that's the process payment activity graph. And let's just make sure we know where that one is in the project browser. So let's drag this one across, put our toolbox away for the moment, and our process payment is under the process payment use case. So let's go back here and we'll do that hyperlink again. Put that hyperlink in and add that. Oh, got that hyperlink there. So let's go in here, process payment. Just need to delete that one. Let's delete that for the moment, and I'll put in the hyperlink. And let's do that, and then click on go to the properties of that. View properties. Somewhere, let me just double click on that. And we want to go to a diagram, and let's go and find that diagram under behavioral models and use case models, use cases, and process payment.
Process payment, I think.
So it's only displaying ones that have got an activity there. We put that diagram in, and we can put some notes in there if we want to as well, but let's not do that. And now, you know, I've got that. So let me just double click on those properties, and we can go straight through to that other diagram. So that's a useful thing to do. The other thing I just want to, one other thing I want to do, Scott, is just going to close some of these extra things we've got open here. We've got a lot of different things open there. Let's go to our use case model, and we've used most of these icons across the top here. We haven't talked about these moving things up and down, but we can easily select a step and move it up or down in the list of steps. But the other thing we've got is the generation of test cases. So we're going to have a topic on video on test cases. So I'm not going to talk about this in detail, but just to show you how powerful this is. So when you have a series of steps in your use case, one of the things that you would want to link that to is a test case. And if we look at one of the patterns here, I'm just going to go quickly flick over and look at the use case patterns here. And let's have a look at test cases there. You can see that the relationship between a test case and a use case. So that's an important thing. We can have a number of different test cases that will test a use case, or a test case might indeed test a number of different use cases. So both things are possible there. Let's have a look how we can do something, you know, much more, I guess, much more elaborate in a way that we can actually generate our test cases. So we'll just say, let's generate an external test case from this particular scenario, and we go. And there we have the complete that's been generated, and we've got, you know, all these steps in here as well. We've got our test case there, and we can, you know, rename the test case as you know, something like 20-day test. Something. And
I can see under scenarios it says the test script's not run. So
yeah, that's right. So what we can do is we can bring up the test window. So if we look at this, you can see that there, it's got all the steps in there, including that user's step and all of the alternate pathways and everything as well.
Now, you haven't had to go and write all this from scratch. Enterprise Architects just generated it all for you.
Exactly, Scott. So, you know, we can, like launch this into that window as well, but it's done it automatically. The path is all there written. So a very useful thing. Like I said, we're not going to talk about this in a lot of detail, but just for the expert users to know that this is there, and we'll generate all of these tests for us. And we've got, you know, these different test states that we can say, look, you know, what is that this hasn't been run? And we can say, yes, it's been run on a certain date. So, you know, someone might put the date in and say, look, it was run on, you know, the 6th of October. It's run by me. It was checked by Marissa. And, you know, we can then use these use cases to generate out these test cases for us, Scott. So I've covered a lot of different.
Now updated now to say that it's passed.
It's passed. Yeah. So I've covered a lot of, and you can see down in the description there, we've got the description down there as well. That's talking about the particular test. So we've covered a lot of different things with across all videos, from the introduction to the intermediate, the advanced, and now the expert. We haven't covered absolutely everything. There are lots of other features in Enterprise Architect that would be very useful when you're doing use case modeling. I'll leave those up to the user to explore because we've got a limited time with our videos. We can't cover everything in there, but I think we've covered a lot of things that will allow people to make a good start and to get some very, expert, advanced, intermediate, introductory models completed. So thanks, Scott, for your time.
Thanks, Stephen. It's been fantastic to see how you can cover nearly every aspect of usage of a parking meter system. You can create scenarios, you can automatically create use cases and create activity diagrams and test cases from those use cases. So it's really quite powerful. So appreciate your time. As always, we encourage people to have a look at the Sparx Systems YouTube channel to look at all of the other videos related to use case modeling. And there are hundreds of videos looking at all different aspects of Sparx Systems tools and looking at every single aspect of our urban parking meter example. Thanks for your time, Stephen. Always great to have your expertise on board.
Always a pleasure, Scott. And just remember, you can, if you have any questions about this, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or visit our website at www.sparxservices.com.au, and we'll be very happy to talk to you or start a conversation about how you can use Enterprise Architect to do use case modeling.
Thanks, Stephen.